Please help us to like, comment and subscribe to the channel for more of this. At 38, Rachel Williams stood at her mother's funeral, her hands trembling slightly as she waited. She hadn't seen her younger sister Sandra in 6 long years, not since the day Sandra stole her fiancé, a tech millionaire named Adam. Rachel had imagined this moment countless times, but nothing prepared her for the calm that now washed over her. When Sandra finally walked in, her diamond ring catching the light and her lips curled into that smug smile, Rachel didn't flinch. She whispered to herself, "You have no idea who I married." That day wasn't just about mourning. It was about closing chapters. Rachel's mother Linda had always been the glue that held the family together. Growing up in a modest home outside Boston, Linda taught Rachel strength, dignity and kindness. They shared a special bond that deepened as Rachel grew older. Even after Rachel moved into her downtown apartment to focus on her job as a marketing executive, she called her mom every day. Linda was her advisor, her cheerleader and her best friend. 8 months before the funeral, Linda was diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer. From that moment, Rachel's world began to collapse. Despite the harsh treatments, Linda faced her illness with grace. Her main concern was her family, not herself. Rachel stayed by her side during those final weeks, helping her eat, adjusting her pillows and whispering memories from their shared life. On a quiet evening, Linda passed away holding Rachel's hand. Her final request was simple: "Find peace in your life, sweetheart." Rachel nodded through her tears, promising she would try. But she hadn't known that peace would begin with the reappearance of the 2 people who broke her heart. 6 years earlier, Rachel's life looked perfect. She had her dream job, a stylish apartment and a wide circle of friends. What she didn't have was someone to share it with. Then she met Adam Mitchell, a self-made tech entrepreneur with charm, ambition, and just the right amount of mystery. They met at a charity gala through Rachel's college friend, Amanda. "Rachel, meet Adam," Amanda had smiled. "He's changing the world of cloud security." Adam's confidence filled the room and Rachel was drawn in immediately. Their connection was fast and intense. They shared a love for art, travel and ambitious plans. Rachel called her mother after their first date. "Mom, I think I met someone amazing," she said, beaming. Over the next year and a half, Adam swept her off her feet with weekend trips, symphony tickets and handwritten notes. Then one evening during a private dinner on a yacht in Boston Harbor, he proposed with a sparkling 5-carat ring. "Yes," Rachel whispered through happy tears. Her parents were thrilled, especially Linda, who immediately started imagining the perfect wedding. Rachel's younger sister, Sandra, was only 2 years behind her. Growing up, they had a complicated relationship. Sandra always seemed to want what Rachel had, whether it was toys, attention or praise. But Rachel chose her as maid of honor anyway. "It'll bring you 2 closer," Linda had encouraged. Rachel wanted to believe they had outgrown their rivalry. But when Sandra met Adam during a family dinner, she was overly complimentary. "Wow, you're even more handsome in person," she said, lightly touching his arm. Rachel laughed it off, blaming Sandra's charm. At the engagement party held in their parents' backyard, Sandra helped hang fairy lights and arrange flowers. She was all smiles and bubbly energy, but Rachel noticed her watching Adam from across the room more than once. "Just happy for you," Sandra had claimed with a toast. Later that night, as Rachel washed champagne glasses, Linda approached her in the kitchen. "Sweetheart, Sandra seems very taken with Adam." Rachel rolled her eyes. "Mom, she's just being friendly. She's dating someone else, remember?" But Linda wasn't convinced. "Just be careful. You know how she is when you have something she admires." As wedding plans moved forward, Rachel began to notice subtle changes in Adam. He worked later hours and seemed more distracted. "It's just pre-launch stress," he would say. But their weekly date nights became rare, and when they did happen, Adam often stared at his phone. He criticized Rachel's outfits, her habits, even her laugh. Things he once adored now annoyed him. Meanwhile, Sandra started calling more often, offering to help with wedding plans. "Just want it to be perfect for you," she would say sweetly. One evening, Rachel and Adam were at a fancy Italian restaurant, but he barely spoke. His phone buzzed constantly until she finally asked, "Is there somewhere else you'd rather be?" Adam sighed. "It's work, Rachel." A few days later, Rachel found a strong floral perfume on Adam's shirt while doing laundry, one she didn't wear. Adam claimed it was from an investor named Rebecca who hugged him. The story made sense, sort of. Rachel wanted to trust him. Over coffee the next morning she vented to Amanda. "You're just nervous. Every couple gets like this before the wedding," Amanda said. But Rachel's gut wouldn't rest. She began overcompensating, spa days, candlelit dinners, thoughtful gestures. But Adam grew colder. Then came the cake tasting. Adam had been excited about it for weeks. But that morning he canceled. "Sandra can go with you," he suggested. "She knows my favorite flavors anyway." Rachel froze. How did Sandra know Adam's cake preferences better than his fiancé? Still she agreed, too drained to argue. The next day while cleaning Adam's car, Rachel found a silver earring with a tiny sapphire. It was unmistakably Sandra's. She'd worn them at the engagement party. Rachel held the earring tightly as Adam walked in that evening. "Does this belong to Sandra?" she asked, her voice calm but tense. Adam glanced at it and smiled casually. "Yeah, she must have dropped it when I gave her a ride to the florist last week." Rachel narrowed her eyes. "You gave her a ride?" Adam shrugged. Her car was in the shop and she asked. It wasn't a big deal. When Rachel called Sandra to ask, her sister's response matched Adam's word for word. "Thank goodness. I've been looking everywhere for that earring. Adam was kind enough to take me." That night Rachel lay awake staring at the ceiling. Their story was too perfect, too rehearsed. Her heart pounded with suspicion, but she had no proof. The stress began to show in her face, in her weight, in her energy. She booked a therapist secretly and started attending weekly sessions. She couldn't tell Adam. She didn't even trust herself around him anymore. Then 3 weeks before the wedding, Adam pulled her aside. "Rachel, I think we should postpone the wedding," he said gently. "You've been so anxious lately. Maybe we need time to breathe." Rachel fell apart. "What did I do wrong?" she cried. "Tell me what's happening, Adam. Please." He pulled her into a hug, but his eyes were distant. "It's not you. I just want us both to be happy." That night, Rachel woke at 3 a.m. to find his side of the bed empty. As she walked down the hallway, she heard Adam's voice from the guest room. "Not now. He might hear us. I know. I promise, soon." Rachel froze. Her worst fear was unfolding in real time, and she finally understood the depth of the betrayal. The next morning, Rachel decided to take action. She packed lunch and drove to Adam's office to surprise him. On the way, her father called. "You eating okay, honey? Your mother says you look too thin." Rachel forced a smile. "Just wedding stress, Dad. I'm taking Adam lunch." "He better be treating you right," he grumbled. "Or he'll have me to deal with." If only he knew. At the building, the security guard let her in with a wave. On the elevator ride, Rachel studied her reflection, trying to hide the tiredness under her eyes. When she arrived, Adam's secretary Monica looked startled. "Rachel. Adam's in a meeting right now." Rachel held up the lunch bag. "It's okay. I'll wait." Monica hesitated. "He asked not to be disturbed today." Rachel tilted her head. "Is he alone?" Monica's eyes darted toward Adam's office door. That was all Rachel needed. Without another word, she walked past and opened the door. What she saw froze her to the spot. Adam was holding Sandra close, their lips locked in a kiss. Her sister's skirt was ruffled and Adam's hands rested on her waist. It took several seconds before they noticed her. When they did, Sandra gasped and stepped back. "Rachel," she stammered. Adam straightened his tie. "This isn't what it looks like." Rachel's voice was quiet but firm. "How long?" Adam looked to Sandra, then back at Rachel. "Can we talk about this privately?" "How long?" she repeated. Sandra took a breath. "Since the engagement party." Rachel's jaw tightened. "For months. While I was planning our wedding." Adam moved behind his desk. "It wasn't planned. It just happened." Rachel dropped the lunch bag onto the floor. "You didn't just trip and fall into bed together for months." Her voice remained even, though her hands trembled. Sandra spoke again. "We tried to fight it." "Don't call me Becca," Rachel snapped. "That nickname died with my trust." Adam pressed the intercom. "Monica, escort Rachel out." Rachel turned toward him. "Don't bother. I'll leave with my dignity." In the elevator, the tears came hard. By the time she got to her car, she was shaking, barely able to breathe. Back at her apartment, Rachel curled up on the bathroom floor, sobbing. She couldn't call anyone, couldn't even form words. Her parents arrived within an hour using their spare key. Linda wrapped her arms around her eldest daughter as Rachel finally told them everything. Her father, John, paced the room, fists clenched. "I'll kill him," he muttered. "Both of them." "John, your blood pressure," Linda warned, though her face was pale with fury. The next few days passed in a haze. Rachel canceled the wedding. Her father handled the finances. She dropped off the engagement ring with the doorman at Adam's apartment. That's when Rachel learned Sandra had already moved in. Her clothes were in the closet. Their old family photos had been replaced with new ones. Then came Adam's email, cold, efficient, and copied to Sandra. "We've sorted through your things." Stephanie helped catalog what's left. Rachel stared at her screen in disbelief. She later discovered through mutual friends that they had met secretly every time she worked late. People admitted they'd seen signs but didn't want to get involved. The betrayal deepened. Even silence had become another wound. The stress took a toll on Rachel's father. His blood pressure rose, requiring new medication and frequent doctor visits. Linda looked older with every passing week. The family rift was more than emotional. It was physical now. 6 months after the betrayal, Rachel hit rock bottom. Her therapist diagnosed her with depression. She lost a major client at work after breaking down during a presentation. Her boss kindly suggested a leave of absence. Staying in Boston felt suffocating. When an opening came up at their Chicago branch for a marketing director, Rachel applied. It felt like her only way out. Rachel got the job 2 weeks later. Her mother helped pack her things. As they folded clothes and wrapped framed photos, Linda broke the silence. "Will you ever forgive Sandra?" she asked. Rachel didn't look up. "I don't know, Mom. Maybe never." Linda nodded, her voice soft. "Forgiveness isn't for them. It's for you." Rachel looked at her hands. "I'm moving to Chicago, Mom. That's me freeing myself." Linda sat beside her. "Just promise me you'll call. And don't shut us out." Rachel promised. She wasn't sure what healing looked like, but distance was her first step. Chicago felt cold in every sense of the word. Rachel's apartment was small and unfamiliar. She buried herself in work, staying late at the office and eating takeout at her desk. She avoided calls from old friends. But the pain found new cracks. One Sunday morning her phone rang. It was her mother. "Honey, I want you to hear it from me before it hits social media. Sandra and Adam got married yesterday." The announcement was in a local magazine. The photo showed them smiling outside the courthouse. On Sandra's hand was Rachel's former engagement ring. That night, Rachel drank a full bottle of wine alone. She scrolled through old photos and sobbed into her pillow until she could barely breathe. She called in sick the next day. But something shifted inside her. As the morning light poured into her apartment, Rachel stood up, wiped her face and whispered, "This ends now." She deleted every photo of Adam. Blocked Sandra and Adam on every platform. Took a long shower. At work, she focused harder than ever. Her boss noticed and began assigning her bigger clients. Rachel earned the respect of her new office through sheer resilience. Her first real friend in Chicago was Madison, the HR director. Madison invited her to book club and introduced her to other women. Slowly, Rachel began building a circle. Madison also tried to set her up. "No thanks," Rachel laughed. "I'm not there yet." But Madison noticed something. "That guy you keep having coffee with? The investor? He likes you." Rachel brushed it off. The man's name was Jack Foster. They had met at a tech conference in San Francisco. Jack was kind, confident, and nothing like Adam. Their professional chats slowly turned into personal ones. Jack eventually asked her to dinner. Rachel hesitated but agreed. 20 minutes into the date, she had a full panic attack. Her hands trembled, her breath shortened, tears welled up. Jack didn't flinch. He moved beside her and calmly talked her through it. He drove her home without pushing for answers. The next day, a bouquet arrived at her office with a note. "No pressure, no expectations. Just hoping you're okay." That evening, she called him and told him everything. About Adam, about Sandra. Jack listened without a word, then shared how his own wife had left him for his business partner. From then on, they built something new. Jack never rushed her. He knew her boundaries and respected them. On their 5th date, he cooked dinner instead of taking her out. When her panic returned months later, he helped her through it again. For the first time in years, Rachel believed trust might be possible. A year after her move, Rachel's life felt unrecognizable. She had been promoted to senior marketing director. Her apartment felt like home. And most importantly, she had fallen in love. But this time it felt steady. Jack knew how she liked her coffee, what books she loved, and never made her feel small. She met Jack's sister Claire and they clicked immediately. Rachel's relationship with her parents improved too, though Sandra remained a distant name in occasional updates. They bought a new house, her mom once mentioned. Sandra posts a lot about vacations and parties. Rachel only nodded. Does she ever ask about me? Sometimes, her mom said. She doesn't say much, but her voice changes when I mention you. Rachel continued therapy, slowly letting go of the bitterness. The nightmares faded. Jack remained steady, never pushing too hard but always present when she needed him. One weekend, Jack surprised her with a trip to wine country. They spent days laughing, tasting wine and watching sunsets. On their final night, walking through a rose garden, Jack stopped beneath an archway. Rachel, he said, taking her hands, this past year has been the greatest gift of my life. He knelt down with a ring. Panic flickered across her face. But he smiled gently. No pressure. Not today. Not tomorrow. I just want you to know I'm here, whenever you're ready. Tears streamed down her cheeks. Yes, she whispered. I'm ready now. The ring was a simple emerald, flanked by 2 tiny diamonds, elegant, understated, and perfect. Rachel called her parents that night. Her mother cried tears of joy. He sounds wonderful, she said. When can we meet him? Rachel smiled. Soon. They planned a small wedding with just 30 guests. At her mother's request, Rachel sent Sandra an invite, not expecting her to come. Sandra replied via email. Congratulations. We won't be attending. Best wishes. Linda sighed. It's progress. At least she answered. On their wedding day, Rachel walked down the aisle, radiant and unburdened. Her father whispered, You made it, kiddo. And this time she truly had. Rachel and Jack's wedding was small but full of warmth and joy. Close friends, new colleagues and family filled the historic Chicago venue with laughter and support. Jack's vows were simple but heartfelt. Rachel, he said, I promise to treat your heart like the rare treasure it is. To never take your trust for granted. And to face every day with honesty, patience and love. Rachel's own voice shook as she responded, You taught me that love doesn't have to hurt to be real. Thank you for showing me what peace feels like. They kissed to the sound of applause and tears. They bought a brownstone together not far from the river. It needed work but they made it theirs, painting, renovating, planting flowers. Jack's investment firm thrived, especially as he began backing women-led tech startups. Rachel became vice president at her agency. At a dinner party one evening, a fellow investor casually mentioned something that froze Rachel. Foster and Mitchell used to be rivals, he said. Foster's investment got bought out for millions. Mitchell's failed. Big loss. Rachel blinked. Mitchell, as in Adam Mitchell? The man nodded. Yep. Rough downfall. Foster made the smarter bet. That night she sat beside Jack on the couch. Why didn't you ever tell me you knew Adam? Jack paused, then spoke softly. I knew of him. When we met, I didn't know the full story, just that you were once engaged to someone in tech who betrayed you. I didn't want to bring the past into something that felt new. Rachel nodded slowly. Instead of anger, she felt something else. Closure. The man who once broke her was now nothing more than a lesson, and the man beside her had become her peace. 2 years later, Rachel and Jack faced a new challenge. Infertility. Months passed without success. They tried medications, treatments, and doctor appointments. Each disappointment was another emotional blow. Still, Jack remained steady. Family is what we build together, he told her, holding her hand through tears. Then just after Rachel's 41st birthday came the news she was pregnant. The joy was overwhelming. Rachel whispered into the quiet, Mom, I hope you're watching. At her next doctor's appointment, she heard the baby's heartbeat and wept with gratitude. 6 months after their baby was born, a healthy girl named Grace, Rachel sat in the nursery rocking her to sleep. Jack was painting the bookshelf he'd built by hand. Rachel thought about her journey, the betrayal, the heartbreak, the grief, and how each crack had let the light in. Her sister Sandra had since divorced Adam and moved into a small apartment. They spoke occasionally, small conversations, no bitterness, just cautious connection. Rachel knew forgiveness was still a journey. But holding her daughter now, she smiled softly. The pain hadn't had the last word. Love did. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed the story, please help us to like, comment and subscribe to the channel for more of this.